So this video is going to be a little bit different than what you're expecting, based off the title at least. Off the title, you would be expecting this to be something about the rewards that you get off of prestiging a class. For example, these basic trainings that are all unlocked by prestiging the classes. Or talking about guns that you unlock from prestiging the classes, like this one. But we're not going to talk about that. What we're going to be talking about is related to the actual class or division themselves. So if you notice here how all these divisions have something that is where on the side where it's 1, 2, 3, 4, how you get each of those when you level up the division. Your division starts off as level 1. We're going to talk about what each one of these division benefits actually does. And the reason for this is, so you see how all of these, I can prestige all of these right here? We're going to talk about something completely different. You need to prestige at least every class at least once. If you notice, my resistance class is the only one I don't have back up to re-prestiging because I don't use it as much. It is good, it's just I don't use it as much as I'm usually using other things. What is the benefit, though, that each level gives you? So we're going to talk about that. Obviously, the first class I'm going to talk about is probably my favorite class to play, which is the Cavalry. The Cavalry division has 4 objectives that we'll give you. The first one lets you use a shield for protection against attacks. This is obviously a team-oriented ability. You know that's right. And this is the main reason why I enjoy playing this class most. It gives me the ability to play kind of as a tank, similar to that of Paladins or Overwatch, letting me play a very tank-heavy role in the team, being focused on objective. This shield is supposed to be resistant to gunfire and certain explosives. For example, if a grenade goes off in front of the shield, you'll be protected. But if you get stuck with a sticky grenade or shot by a bazooka, well, you're going to die. So it's not entirely damage-proof, and you can get shot from the sides. The second ability that it grants you is while sprinting with the shield up, you get a shield charge functionality that enables you to ram your enemies. So while sprinting, I can press circle, and it grants me the shield charge maneuver here, which lets me run up very quickly and damage people. If I were to run into somebody there, it would give me that ability. These are the 2 strongest things that it gives you. The 2 main tangible benefits. It gives you a way to protect yourself against enemy attackers and protect your team from certain types of attacks, as well as being able to quickly close distance between enemies and immediately melee them. What about the other 2 effects? Well, the other 2 effects aren't necessarily necessary, but they are helpful. So, improved objective capabilities lets you do objectives faster. For game modes that require you to do a specific action, such as building a wall, planting a bomb, assembling machine gun turrets, this is something that is very beneficial because you will do that faster. The difference between defusing a bomb in war while as a cavalry and as a non-cavalry is the difference between a grenade going off and you dying 1 second before you finish. It's that critical. The last one is a scoring category. Objectives will give you extra score and 2 assists equal a kill. If you're somebody who's like me and likes to play war and you like to play objective, you can actually beat all of the people that are on your team that are going for KDA. If your entire team on Neptune is sitting in the back and sniping and they are getting every kill, you going and blowing things up, blowing the walls up, building the ladders, and shield charging people is going to get you more objective than them sitting in the back actually securing kills. So, it is a way to keep with the big boys and earn objectives faster. Believe it or not, the Cavalry Division earns XP faster than the other classes because of this. And 2 assists equaling a kill also allows you to progress a lot faster through certain challenges and through leveling weapons faster. It's a nice change that you wouldn't necessarily expect, but, well, it does its job. The Cavalry Division does give you its best stuff up front, though. It gives you the shield and the shield charge, which are probably the 2 best objectives that you can have. It actually makes the class usable. Obviously, though, it's not necessarily serious for other game modes. Another one that gives you its best stuff up front is the Infantry Division. So the Infantry Division gives you a 4th primary attachment immediately. That is what you get when you open the game up, and every time you proceed, you get that 4th attachment. Of all the basic beginning things that you are granted, Commando, Cavalry, and Infantry are the top 3 in terms of the first tier reward. Cavalry and Commando both give you their give you something different up front. They change how you actually play. But compared to Resistance, Expeditionary, Mountain, Armored, Airborne, and Infantry, all of these classes play exactly the same. They don't change how you play. Well, they change how you play a little bit, but they don't change, like, the mechanics of your kit. Whereas Cavalry does, because you're playing defensive, and Commando does, because you're dropping your paratroops so that you can respawn in tactical positions. In terms of these are all running and gunning based abilities. Well, the Infantry Division changes that. The Infantry Division gives you the most noticeable impact in a 4th primary attachment, and it gives you this right up front. Why is this such an important thing? For that, I need to show you some of my more difficult builds. Great example is this build right here. This gun, the Grease Gun, is one of my least favorite guns in the game. This gun is so attachment reliant, it is not funny. This gun is absolutely worthless at a default SMG. There are a lot of other SMGs that work well with attachments, like the PPSH-41, needs a grip, but other than that, it doesn't really need anything. Or things like the MP40, which don't even need attachments. You can run the default version of the MP40 and be fine. The Grease Gun is not that gun. It requires attachments. I don't even have all the attachments I need, because I need to get rapid fire for this gun. This gun is playable to me only with very specific attachments. I need rapid fire, I need extended mag, I need full metal jacket, and I need the reflex sight or the lens sight. Either of these sights will work like a charm. Having that 4th attachment right off the bat, though, is mandatory on certain types of guns. Certain guns that are very attachment heavy are going to benefit greatly. Another great example of this is another gun, the Bren. The Bren is a machine gun, is a fully automatic machine gun, but it has an incredibly slow rate of fire. This means that you need to have rapid fire on this. Now, most LMGs in the game, you want to have extended mag and full metal jacket on. So, bringing rapid fire means you can't bring a scope or a sight of any kind, so therefore, infantry reduces this problem greatly. The second benefit you get from infantry, again, very similar to cavalry, it gives you the best shit up front, is the second secondary attachment, and you get to swap weapons faster. Swapping weapons faster isn't particularly great, as I'll be able to demonstrate. It's not overwhelmingly fast. However, the secondary attachment is incredibly good. You see, secondary attachments only come in 2 forms. They come in pistol or crossbow. You can't add attachments to anything else. Well, the crossbow becomes an insane death machine that's capable of killing 3 people at a time easily in the infantry class. Outside of the infantry class, you very much have to choose how this gun performs. For example, you can run tri-bolts, which basically give you a medium-range shotgun ability, or you can choose explosive bolts, which can let you counter other cavalry people, or people that you just need to blow up and make go big boom boom. But the problem is now that you have to be incredibly accurate with your aim. Having the double attachments of the infantry class is incredible. This also works for pistols. Having a secondary pistol attachment is very good on certain pistols. For example, the machine pistol works better while running extended mag with something like full metal jacket or quick draw, something that gives you much more lethality for ADS. The other 2 attachments that you get for the class itself are not particularly great and very specific. Moving faster while aiming is a nice benefit, but it's not a mandatory requirement. Most of the time when you're moving, you're not necessarily going to be doing anything impressive. This faster speed is nice, but it's not a requirement. Basically, it just increases if you want to run around in ADS all the time. Running around in ADS all the time is not advisable. Yeah, not advisable. The other tangible benefit that it gives you is that while aiming down sight, you have less idle sway. Now, this benefit is much better off on snipers than it is on the class itself. There is no sway whatsoever. However, if you were to put a sniper rifle on this, you'll see what I'm talking about. The reason why I'm not particularly a fan of the infantry class is because outside of its first attachment, its first unlock requirement, it's not that impressive. The second secondary attachment is nice, but if you use rifleman, which a lot of people do, to bring a different secondary, this has no benefit. Same thing, the other two ones are nice things to have, but they're not anything to wow you with. This is a very early on thing, so if you prestige your infantry class, you're pretty good. You don't really need to worry about leveling it up too quickly. Next up is the Airborne Division. The Airborne Division is designed to be suited for SMGs, whereas the Infantry Division is designed to be suited for rifles. The Airborne Division is kind of interesting because it's a bit all over the place. The first requirement that it gives you is borderline useless, except on a very few types of guns. It lets you fire guns while sprinting and diving. The main benefit to this is that you can sprint towards someone with an SMG or a shotgun and pretty much just hold the trigger while closing distance. While this is handy, this doesn't actually lend itself to being particularly useful. And most of your shots while firing and sprinting are going to miss. So that first caveat that you get is actually very bad. However, it does get better. The second one is the most mandatory part about it, letting you reload while sprinting. This is what it's like to sprint and fire. Not particularly accurate. Actually, wait. Yeah, that's not particularly accurate right there. The second benefit you can get, however, is from reloading while sprinting. This lets you continue to sprint and reload on the fly without ever losing momentum in a gunfight. This is the key ability for this class, in my opinion, is the ability to just constantly be on the move and minimize your downtime. Most other classes in the game will have to fire, sprint away, stop, reload, or at least slow to a walk and reload, and then go back to firing. Well, this class doesn't have that. The third thing you'll get is climbing over obstacles faster and no damage from falling. This is not particularly valuable, and this mostly comes into effect when you are attempting to run a sniper rifle. Snipers generally prefer the high ground, and generally one of the only ways to get out of the high ground is to jump. So, this is nice for having the no fall damage, but having fall damage is not a particularly impressive requirement. Climbing over obstacles faster is meaningless as well. You're not going to get that much of a speed advantage. The last one is sprinting faster over time, and this becomes critical because the longer you sprint, the faster you become. This lets you cover large distances very quickly. If you're in a 1v1 type scenario and you need to get that kill before a timer runs out to secure a victory for your team, this is incredibly important. This is also good for objective-based modes where you need to very quickly grab an object and move with it to another location. The Airborne Division is nice, but you're mainly going to be playing the Airborne Division for two caveats. Reload while sprinting, and sprint faster over time. Firing guns while sprinting or climbing over obstacles faster are not really mandatory. So this is a little bit of a late bloomer, and you want to focus on leveling this up very quickly. I am actually the opposite of what this game wants when it comes to the Armor Division. They want you, while using the Armor Division, to run LMGs, and I think it's the best class in the game for sniping. But it's important to understand how this playstyle differs greatly from how they want you to play. See, if you're focusing on LMGs like the game wants you to, then the beginning of this is incredibly good. You're going to be in the thick of things, staying at a close to mid-range with suppressing fire. Taking slightly less damage from explosives and fire damage is good for letting you survive encounters with incendiary shell shotgunners, or from grenades just being randomly lobbed at you to flush you out of your spot. It won't keep you alive if you get shot by a bazooka, point blank, but it's helpful to have. It also gives you immunity to shell shock and tactical equipment. This is incredibly important if you're going up against a team that likes to run tac grenades and thermal flares, because they'll be pretty much meaningless. The big thing which makes this class very effective, though, is it negates the effect of a concussion grenade. So, that's helpful. Both of these things are helpful, but they're not the best things you get out of the class, which is what makes it a late bloomer. You get increased bullet penetration through surfaces, and greatly reduced flinch when shot. Well, let's explain what I mean. This is a sniper rifle. Sniper rifles have very good penetration. That's good. Let me see. Alright, so that. Boom! Boom. Look at that shot right there. That's increased bullet penetration from the armored class on a sniper rifle. I can shoot through solid objects much easier. The second is reduced flinch when shot. When you're in a sniper duel, well, let's pretend this guy right back here is a sniper. I'm gonna line up my shot, and he hit me, but I was able to follow up with the shot because I don't have to worry about flinch on him. Welcome. Welcome to snipers. The Armored Division, in my opinion, is probably the best division for snipers for those two later requirements, but it works pretty well for an SMG. For this case, it really depends on what specific benefit you're trying to run in what specific class you are trying to run. If you're trying to run a class that's focused on mobility and just simply avoiding more annoying things in the game, like explosives, concussive grenades, thermal flares, flamethrowers, then this is a very good early one. If you're like me and you like to play a bit more range with either an LMG or a sniper, something long range with the ability to shoot through walls if necessary, you're going to want this as a later on attachment. The next class to cover is the Mountain Class, and in my opinion, this is the worst division in the game. So, what does the Mountain Class give you? The first thing it gives you is it makes you invisible to enemy recon and controlled streaks. This means that if the enemy is able to secure enough kills, or is able to secure enough score, depending on what ordnance they're running, if they're running something like Blitzkrieg or ordnance, which changes how you earn score streaks, you will be completely invisible to them on the screen. A good example of this is if you go to score streaks and you try and, for example, use a guide bomb, you will be dropped into a plane and have to lead the guide bomb down manually. Well, with the Mountain Class, they won't be able to see you while they're guiding that bomb down. It is an incredibly minute and small thing. Most of the time, you are not going to be affected by score streaks to that degree. Most of the score streaks you're going to go up against are things like Molotovs, etc. Now, recon aircraft is something most people tend to bring, and recon aircraft is incredibly helpful in a team-based movement. So, yeah, that is kind of helpful, but a division that is entirely locked to just, at a basic level at least, to just that is not helpful. The second thing it gives you is killed enemy death locations are hidden. What this means is that when you kill an enemy, their location does not appear on an ally's minimap. This means that you aren't going to be detected if you try and get up close and flank with this. Or if you're at long range and sniping, your enemy team won't know where they got shot from. The third benefit is the most beneficial thing you'll get, which is no name or reticle change when enemies aim at you. This means that... Fucking hell. Hold on. This is the main benefit that you're going to get out of this class, is the ability to simply just play as a sniper. This allows you to just sit in the back, and anytime an enemy moves their cursor over you, it won't change. At medium range, this is more beneficial because you may not be able to realize if it's an ally or an enemy. At long range, this is pretty much useless because at that long of a range, generally it's going to be an enemy and not an ally. But it can be helpful if you don't move. You won't be able to tell if it's a dead body or if it's a Mountain Class running prone. The last one that you get is silent movement. This means that you will not make any noise when you sprint around. Now, the funny part about this is that most of the benefits that this give you are actually for close range combat, and the developers really didn't think that through. Other than invisibility to recon aircraft, which means that if you're a camping sniper holed up somewhere, the enemy can't just use a recon aircraft to come find you and flush you out of your hidey hole. All of the other tangible benefits are dramatically close range related. For example, silent movement means they will not be able to hear your footsteps approaching on them, and having no reticule change means that they will not be able, unless they're paying attention, to tell if that's a teammate or not. Killed enemy death locations hidden also has this benefit. This means that the Mountain class is more designed for a flanking approach with SMGs, short-range rifles, shotguns, than it actually is with snipers, the class it's intended for. And the two best benefits you get out of this class are all locked to the last possible level. So this is an incredible late bloomer. The Expeditionary class is quite possibly one of the best, but it's because it's an early game one, very similar to the Infantry. What it does at its first level is give you double lethal and tactical equipment. This means that you will get 2 of each type of grenade, with the singular exception of smoke grenades are still locked to 1. So, you can bring 2 frag grenades, and 2 gas grenades, 2 sticky grenades, and 2 concussion grenades, whichever you want to run. While this is good, the random nature of grenades is not necessarily a key thing. The enhanced equipment use is nice for increasing the effects of your tactical equipment. For example, gas grenades are much more effective, as are concussion grenades and thermal flares. And smoke grenades just last longer, but you only bring 1. This benefit is nice if you're in a game mode where you're planning on dying a lot, war, and you just want to throw grenades left, right, and center. In more of a TDM type approach, or even a domination approach, it's not as good. The second benefit that you get from Expeditionary is, believe it or not, the best thing. Munitions replenish from killed enemies and over time. This will enable you to refill and restore your grenades, tactical grenades, lethal grenades, and just ammo. This is the only class in the game, except for the Commando class, that is able to regen ammo for a weapon you're currently using while you're using it. The Expeditionary class makes it so that you can build up a very large stockpile of ammo and weaponry for your class. Very similar to how it is in the shooting range when you just expend all your ammo and get it back. Well, that's what this class gives you. The problem with this class is that the later 2 things you get are pretty much worthless. Improved tactical and easier to destroy war buildables. Whoop-de-doo. One is a game mode specific one for war, and the other one is the improved tacticals that we talked about earlier. Well, it improves them slightly further, making them even more valuable. This is not a great thing. This can be done without. The last one is that equipment damage paints enemies on the mini-map. This is mostly for things like gas grenades. If an enemy's in the gas grenade, they'll show up on your allies' mini-maps for you. Or if you kill someone with a frag grenade and it also wounds a nearby ally, this can let a flanker on your team know to chase them down and kill them. Other than that, though, the main benefit you're going to get is this is the ammo regen class. For this reason, most of the time you're going to see people running things like a shotgun with incendiary shells or something else. It's not particularly great and suited for all types of builds, but I know a lot of people that just run nothing but Expeditionary for the sole purpose of the ammo regen. So that has to account for something. The next class to talk about would be the Resistance class. And the Resistance class is kind of an odd one. If you notice, this is the only class that I have not actually leveled up completely yet to where it can be prestiged again. And that's not because it's a bad class, it's just simply not a better class. See, each one of the classes gives you something, except for the Mountain class. Expeditionary gives you ammo regen, the Armored class is great for snipers, but very much similar, depends on how you use it, like the Mountain class. Airborne lets you reload while sprinting. Infantry gives you the ability to have extra attachments, Cavalry gives you a shield, and Commando gives you the paratroop insert. Resistance is a bit odd. It gives you the ability to know where your enemies are. It also lets your enemies know where you are, and that is kind of a interesting setup. You will always know where your enemies are pretty accurately. The first thing that you get is a minimap indicator and scrambler of close hostiles. The minimap scrambler basically just disables their minimap when you're nearby. Now, that is a good thing and a bad thing. If they are running a minimap-based setup, for example, mountain, then you're kind of fucking them over. However, you're also giving away your position that there is an enemy resistance class right near you. So I don't necessarily know how valuable this is to you in the long run. The main benefit, though, is the minimap indicator. You see, the minimap indicator works in a really important way. Your indicator, your minimap indicator, will light up in the direction that you are looking if there is a hostile in basically any enemy that is on the minimap. You'll be able to see what direction they're looking at you from. This is very good for tracking through walls where enemies are, and as close as you can get to wall hacks in this game, short of actually doing it. It's very important in certain objective modes. For example, in war on Operation Griffin, if you are trying to defend objective B, and you have the walls built, knowing which door the enemies are coming from is very critical. In a similar regard, there are many indoor maps, for example, Sainte Marie, I can't pronounce that one, but you should know the one I'm talking about. Sainte Marie, where there are tons of buildings in the center of the map that enemies could be firing at you through windows for. Well, this gives you an accurate indicator as to where they are. Even on other maps, such as Grusenhaus, you'll be able to get much, much stronger benefits out of this, knowing if enemies are running around the side of the house or running through the house. Other than this one minimap indicator, though, nothing you get is really good outside of a situational use. Enemy movements are easier to hear, but this is directly countered out by quieter enemy movement from the Mountain Division, or if you have the basic training for it. In addition, enemy movements are easier to hear is not necessarily a good thing to have. If you're playing this game over a headset with no chat audio or anything, and you're listening to minute crumbles, a grenade going off might impair your ability to hear movement. It's not exactly the most reliable method. The third benefit that you get is actually fairly helpful. Kills and assists will grant an intel ping of nearby enemies. Basically, if you kill an enemy, an intel ping will go off from their dead body, revealing if there are any other enemies in range. And yes, that is actually incredibly helpful if you randomly throw a frag grenade, kill one person, and see that there were 2 other people that were damaged by that frag grenade. This is helpful for making flanking type decisions as to where to go to pick off weaker targets. But it's not particularly useful outside of that. It's basically a way of letting your team and yourself know, hey, there's somebody over here, let's go kill them. The last benefit you get is easier to spot targets on the minimap and increase minimap coverage. This is pretty much useless. It does help with your first and third ability in the resistance class, but it's not anything to like, oh, I absolutely must level up. So, again, this is another early bloomer. The last class to talk about is the Commando Class. And a lot of people run the Commando Class because it's right up there with Expeditionary for being one of the most run classes in the game. The first basic thing that it gives you is the strongest part of its kit on paper. So, instead of bringing a tactical equipment like, say, a gas grenade, you get to bring a paratroop insert. This lets you deploy it in an outdoor portion of the map, and it lets you paratroop back down on your own instead of respawning at a designated respawn zone. It also lets you attack while you are paratrooping down, and you can control how fast you paratroop back down if you're getting shot at, so you can avoid dying. Now, the paratroop insert has its pros and cons. First off, it limits your offensive capability slightly by removing tactical equipment. No smoke grenades, no thermal flares, no gas grenades, no concussion grenades. It does help your offensive capability by giving you the ability to fire from the air, and thus creates a secondary vantage point that you have. I know a lot of people run snipers in the Commando class and start sniping people from above that they can't snipe on ground level. So, yes, this is an incredibly solid strategy for this build. However, there's a lot of counterplay. First off, it cannot be planted in a large portion of the map. It can't be planted in the enemy's backline or you'll die once you respawn. It cannot be planted near areas that are going to be exploded by grenades and explosives, oh my, because it's going to be destroyed. And enemies that find your paratroop inserts can destroy them and thus ruin this ability. The second benefit you'll get is that health will regenerate quicker, and getting kills will immediately trigger healing. This makes it possible for you to win a 2v1 scenario, where you came into the 2v1 injured and walk at full health just by quickly killing 2 people. This is an incredibly helpful ability, and allows you to chain kills together very quickly, but you're still gonna die to one headshot from most sniper rifles in the game, so, yeah, let's just leave this to the close range fighting. Another thing that you'll be granted from multi-kills is that multi-kills and headshots grant extra score and ammo. That score part is critical because this allows you to play in a more offensive manner than Cavalry, whereas Cavalry gains more XP because of the fact that they're completing objectives. The Commando class gets more XP from multi-kills and headshots. The faster you can chain together kills and headshots, the faster you can get your score and XP leveled up. In addition, you will also get ammo off of this, giving this and the Expeditionary classes the only classes that can actually regen their own ammo. The problem is, unlike the Expeditionary class, it's not possible to just keep regenning ammo. If you don't get a multi-kill or you don't get a headshot, you're not going to get that ammo bonus back. And no, you do not recoup an entire full LMG magazine off of a double headshot multi-kill. That's not happening. The most important part of this division, in my opinion, though, is the second basic training. This can expand your options by allowing you to come up with some interesting combinations. For example, I like to run Saboteur and Hustle, but you can also run a number of different things, such as running Rifleman and Hunker, you can run Duelist and Forage, Energetic and Scoped. These are all interesting combinations that you can put together that expand your offensive capabilities. So, in short, the classes that you'll get the most benefit out of in terms of prestiging early is the Cavalry Division, the Resistance Division, the Expeditionary Division, and the Infantry Division. They give you all of the best stuff up front. Your late bloomers that generally are the middle or the late of the prestige are going to be Airborne, Armored, Mountain, and Commando. In my opinion, the best stuff is in the back half of those kits, or at least in the middle, and you're better off leveling those up as fast as you possibly can.